everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday. Here we are once again doing another true crime show. So CB just commented this one is a gay serial killer, isn't it? No. You are probably thinking, as someone pointed out later on in the chat, you might be thinking of, allegedly, Herb Baumeister, who in the early days before they figured out his deal, they called him the I-70 Strangler because he used to dump his victims like along I-70, like before he started burying them in his backyard, allegedly. Like I said, he committed suicide before they did a trial, so they don't know if it was actually him or not. But having bodies in your backyard, that's
yeah, it's not alleged. There were bodies in his backyard.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying they don't know. Yeah.
The bone fragments.
I think the main thing is they don't know if he acted alone. And the thing about this is the I-70 killer, this guy, this is a completely different MO. He's kind of unusual, and they haven't caught him. They don't know who he is. And he's kind of interesting as far as serial killers go because there did not seem to be any sexual component of the crimes. The way that he went about them was unusual, almost kind of like robberies, but not robberies where he really got anything. It almost seemed like he was just killing for the hell of it, like just because he could or just because he got a thrill out of it.
Yeah, like a thrill kill kind of.
Yeah, it's just, this was like a particular kink that he had, I guess, or like some kind of proclivity that he had, and he had a specific thing that he wanted to do. Now, out of his victims, there are 6 canonical victims out of 5 crime scenes, because one of the scenes was 2 women. But there are some later crimes that they think were maybe him too, but they're not entirely sure. So we'll talk about those as well. But there's a lot of really good shit about this because, like I said, this is an uncaught one. So, like, a lot of people still talking about it. And it's possible his main crimes were in 1992. It was actually over a pretty short period, like only like a month, maybe a little less than a month. And he kind of went across like 4 states.
Yeah.
And so they're thinking maybe, truck driver, something like that. But
I have my theories,
but the thing about it is that if he is still alive, he wouldn't probably be that old. At least like a couple people did see him, so they do have like a pretty famous sketch of him that's on the they've even done like an age progressed one now. He would probably be in his 60s at this point, so not super old.
Early 60s probably.
Yeah. But it's possible. I don't know. Like, there obviously it's possible he could be dead. He could be in prison for something else, and they just don't know that it's him. So there's also, but I've also heard, and this hasn't been confirmed by the police or anything like that, but I have heard that that as recently as last month, they were talking about that they had a really strong suspect that they were looking at, but they have not named who that person is.
He may be dead. That's why they haven't named him, or they haven't arrested him, maybe.
Yeah, it is possible that the suspect they're talking about
could be dead.
But it's just kind of like...
I have a weird feeling that he's dead, but we'll get into that later, maybe.
Yeah, well, yeah, because if the same guy... I mean, he for sure, like, committed the 6 that they know he committed. The later ones, I kind of suspect that some of those were him too, even though there were slight differences. Just the MO was, like, super, super similar. And the description that some people gave was kind of similar. So I feel like that was probably him too. But after that, they don't think that he committed anymore. As far as I know, like there weren't any more that came out. Because I think the last one that they think he maybe had something to do with was like 10 years later. Like it was like 2001 or 2002 or something like that. I'm not sure if that was him, but but after that, it seems to have stopped. I don't really, they don't really think that there's any similar crimes. So if he did die or go to prison for something else, it happened in the early 2000s at some point because there weren't any more crimes like this after that, or at least that they were attributing to the same person. So it's entirely possible, as Gramps just said, that the dude is still out there also. I could be watching this right now, which I always kind of worry about that. You know what I mean? A little bit. When we do shows about serial killers that haven't been caught, I mean, there's always that possibility. Because, like I said, he could absolutely still be alive. Because when he committed the crimes in the 90s, they said he only looked like he was in his 20s or 30s. So.
There was only one that I ever really thought could have been a threat, and that was D'Angelo. And he was old and out of shape by the time we were talking about him. And they caught him just a few months later. When we did that show on D'Angelo?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was dangerous. He was really dangerous. He was a trained soldier and a policeman. He'd go into your house when you weren't there and set up the scene and wait for you to come home. That kind of shit. But the rest of these dudes, I don't worry about them. Nah.
Zach says, fun fact, if they showed a super old bartender on that Hulu documentary about Baumeister, he's actually a bartender at the gay bar I hang at. I've known him for years. Oh, that's really funny.
Who said that?
Zach did.
Zach, all right.
Yeah, I think he was on that. I think I know who you're talking about. There's actually there's some good stuff on the I-70 killer. Like, a lot of people have done YouTube videos about it, but also, you know that show People Magazine Investigates? They have them all up on HBO Max. That's where I watch them. There's like fucking 10 seasons of the shit, maybe even more. And I think I've watched almost all of them at this point. They did one back in 2021 about this. It was like an hour and a half long, and it was pretty good. They had like a lot of news clips, and it went like pretty in depth. And I watched it. I had watched it before, but I watched it again last night, and I saw like a bunch of other ones.
Herb had some creepy ass gay dudes around him, bro. That one guy who always wants to be associated with him. That's a creepy old gay too, man.
Yeah, I don't think that's the guy he's talking about though.
No.
Like, yeah,
So that other guy.
Yeah, that other guy. That was
Just there's just something not right about that guy.
Yeah, Teresa Ray Burns said, yeah, there's something a little off about the guy. I'm not saying necessarily that he had anything to do with the murders, the Herb Baumeister murders, that he was like involved or anything, but there's
he wants you to think that though.
Yeah, it's like he's definitely kind of sketchy, like he's trying to like insert himself. But there's people like that.
Yeah, he's trying to insert himself in it, and that he wants to have plausible deniability that he did, or maybe he wasn't involved in it, or he would deny it, but he denies it in a way like he's wants you to suspect him. He's just a creepy dude. I don't trust that guy. I don't think he had anything to do with it.
No, I don't think so either.
He wants you
to
think he did though. As soon as you start coming at me like that, you're
because he's always like super shifty and like doesn't say anything.
Fuck out.
He doesn't say anything like super clear.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Chloe Collins just says, just popped in to say, I love you guys. We love you too.
Thank you.
It's my birthday today. Happy birthday.
Happy
So I'm watching Obsession. Holy crap, I still need to see that. Everybody in the Rama is telling me to watch it. But I'll see it eventually. Eating pizza and drinking whatever that is with my fiance, but I cannot wait to watch this at work tomorrow. Man, you have a good birthday. That sounds kick-ass. Granther says, wasn't Coral Watts on the list for a Wednesday show? Yeah, he was, but it's like it never wins. I don't know why. Like, I put it in the poll like a bunch of times, but so that's just, I don't know who all is voting, but because I know I've been wanting to do a show on Coral Watts too, but it's like it never wins. Like whenever I put it in the poll, because what I do is I have this huge list of topics, and you know I add new ones like whenever somebody suggests one. And then I just kind of rotate them out. So like when I make a new poll, like I'll go way back up in the list because I know it's been like a really long time since I put any of that in the poll, because I don't want to put the same shit in the poll all the time. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I do it. Just I don't rotate them like, I kind of mix them up a little bit. But I usually take stuff from like a way long time ago. Zach said, if the show said the bartender's name was Steve, then yeah, that's him. Yeah, I can't remember what his... I just watched that a couple weeks ago, but I know who you're talking about, though. Not the shifty dude that was on the last one that they were kind of trying to imply on the first show was, like, maybe involved or maybe knew more about it than he was letting on. But I don't know. I do think he knows more than he's letting on, but I don't think he had anything to do with the murders, though. But I think that he likes that he kind of got a little bit of notoriety from being associated with it, perhaps. So he's just he's being kind of cagey about, and they were trying to get him for an interview like on this last one that they did. And like he called and was like, yeah, we're going to do it. And then like the whole ass crew shows up and then he just calls and says he's not showing up. So I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? That's just somebody that just wants to pull people's chains. You know what I mean? But yeah. All right, so this guy here, like I said, has not been caught, and again, very weird for a serial killer. I guess in some, I wouldn't necessarily call him a spree killer because, I mean, the 6 murders that he committed, well, 2 of them were at one time, like at one scene, but the murders that he committed were like far apart in distance, but they were pretty close together in time. Like it was only, I think it was only 29 days, like the whole series. And I don't know. I don't know what the designation is for like spree killer because we've kind of talked about that before. Because usually serial killer that would denote like, you know, a cooling off period in between. But there was a cooling off period. It just wasn't that long. You know what I mean? And I think the fact that they don't know why this guy did what he did. You know, like it just seems really.
I think it's one of traveling cash. I think, but we'll get into it.
Yeah, and it's just like even
I
if
think he was a drifter.
the stupid thing about that though is that which we'll get into, but it's just like he chose places that didn't have much money, like
Yeah.
that and that obviously wouldn't have much money. Like he didn't,
Well,
because I feel like if you're gonna rob a place, one, don't shoot the clerk if you don't have to, because now if you get caught, that's like even worse for you and shit like that. So that's just dumb.
yeah. Well,
But two, it's like, you know, why don't you rob like a liquor store or a convenience store or something like that? I mean, the reason that those get hit all the time is because they have a lot of cash.
there's
on
all
them.
kinds of reasons. And I don't know if you want me to give the answers now, but there's all kinds of reasons why he would do that instead of what you're proposing. You know?
And in some places, he didn't really take the money.
Yeah. But you don't know what happened on the scene. He might have got spooked and ran.
True.
And you see, liquor stores get robbed a lot, so they have
They do.
defenses. You know what I mean? Fucking, they're behind glass. They have cameras. They're hardened. That's a hardened target. They have tougher fucking clerks there that are used to being robbed, or they have guns. Payless shoe stores have fucking teenage girls working in them. They're sitting ducks. Then nobody else robs them, so it's really low hanging fruit. And he can get in and out of there with nobody threatening him. And he doesn't have to kill him. He just likes to kill him.
Yeah, it seemed like
Yeah.
that was the main
Yeah.
point of the exercise.
It could
Like,
be-
I think the money
yeah.
was just kind of like incidental. It
I
seemed
think he
like
needed the money though.
maybe,
I think
but
he
it's
did,
just
yeah.
it just seemed like incidental. Like, oh, okay, I'll take this couple bucks here, might as well. But it's
I
just
think-
like
I
some
think
places he didn't even
I think
take
it was
money
just
that was
kinda-
available.
I think he was just kind of inexperienced. He goes, I'm gonna hit this Payless shoe store. They probably got all kinds of money because nobody robs these places. He's probably expecting a couple grand in there. No, it's gonna be like $100.
Yeah,
you know.
not even.
He thinks there's gonna be a couple grand in there. And he executes the girl because the girl saw his face. So he thinks he's being real slick. Nobody will ever suspect him. And nobody ever got him.
I mean, he was
So
right about
there
that.
was something to that. But I think he thought he was going to get more money.
Well, and I think
So
too, it's like
people
if
are reading in too much into
if
it.
he was worried about being seen, like he didn't wear a mask or nothing.
'Cause,
Like
well,
they saw his face.
That would be real suspicious looking to the outside. You wearing a mask walking in. He says, "Well, I'm gonna kill everybody who's in here anyway." But he thinks he's dumb. You know what I mean? He's probably a very inexperienced thief. He thinks he's a fucking mastermind. He's actually kind of dumb, but hey, he didn't get caught, so he's not that dumb.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
just like somebody saying, "Why'd they steal my bicycle off the fucking front porch in the middle of the day? Everybody in the world could see it." Well, then where is he? And where's
Yeah.
your bike? He got away with it.
Yeah, that's the
So
thing.
he might
You
be
do get
smarter
away
than
with
you
it.
think, or so dumb that it's like a superpower now.
Sometimes, well, a
And-
lot of times when they get away with shit, it's just luck.
Yeah, it's luck. It's luck. But
And this guy in particular, I think. Now, I will note that in this case, to the authorities' credit, they did link the crimes like pretty quick. Like as soon as the second one happened, they were pretty much on it, and that's pretty good for like 1992. Because a lot of times these serial killers, particularly up through the 90s, like if they went to another state and did some shit, like it would take years sometimes for
Yeah.
people to like connect those dots.
yeah,
But this one, they were pretty well, just within like a day or two, they were just kind of like, hey, that sounds like a crime that happened like the next state over or whatever.
yeah.
And they hooked up with the other.
means he's in a car, and he's doing this for gas money and to eat at fucking gas stations and shit like that. That's what I pictured. And he's going somewhere. He didn't have the money to get there, so he did this. And it was like you said, it was a short period of time.
And no one's entirely sure where he's from because they think just from the way that he traveled, like I said, because we'll say like how it was kind of weird. Like he did one and then he went like almost 700 miles and then he came back toward, they think probably he started out living in Indianapolis because that's where the first crime happened. But then like they just kind of went over. And then there were some later ones too that happened in Texas that they think might have been the same guy.
Yeah.
And that was like a little bit later.
He's homeless. He's living in his car.
Either that, well, one thing that I saw on the People magazine thing was that they got a tip, I think it was in 2021, about a guy who worked at a construction site, and this guy had come up like looking for a job.
Yeah.
And they're not sure if it was the same guy, but they said he was acting real sketchy, and it was like the same day that like the first murder had happened, or the first murder, the second murder.
Is he in a van?
No, he was actually in I think it was some kind of convertible. It might have been a Cadillac.
Convertible Cadillac. You could sleep in that.
And the guy, this was a weird thing too. The guy said he had a woman with him. And nobody said, because the thing about it was all the crimes that he committed, like nobody ever saw a car. He always just walked up to, so he was smart enough to know, like, they said if he came in a car, he parked far away.
Could be that she
and
dropped
then like
him off.
walked into the parking lot or whatever. But
could be that she dropped him off, and then he walked. And then after the crime, she picks him back up.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever saw it mentioned. And like I said, they have no idea if this was the same guy or not. This was just like a tip they got. And I don't even know if like that's been investigated.
I picture him being alone though.
Well, yeah, that's why everybody thought it was weird that it's like that there was a girl with him.
It was something like that. And I think it would be like a lone guy in an old VW bus, something like that, or old van, old work van, something that was kind of like, or maybe like a pickup truck with a camper on the back of it. It's something like that.
But I mean, he was mobile, whatever it was. So he either had his own car, or so people thought maybe he was hitchhiking. But I was like, nah. Even the '90s, that would be kind of a hard sell, especially for like a man.
He's in his own car, and he's living in it.
Yeah, Gramther says Coral Watts killed over 80 women, and that dude had the IQ of someone partially retarded. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be smart. You just, like I said, a lot of times it's just luck, or
where you're hunting too.
I was gonna say the reason a lot of serial killers didn't get caught, particularly before, was because they targeted people they didn't know. And the same thing happened here. He didn't know any of these people. It was just random. They're not really entirely sure if he had cased these places beforehand, or he seemed to pick a specific thing, like a specific situation, but not always. And they weren't really sure like how much he knew about the scenario like before he went in there, because they said that he seemed pretty confident and calm. He wasn't like, tetchy or like freaking out or angry or anything like that. So, because there was one woman that survived, but they're not sure if that was the same guy, though. The woman that survived was like part of the later series that happened in Texas. So they're not entirely sure if that guy was the same as this guy. I suspect it probably was, although he did a couple of different things. But he might have been doing different things because he knew that they were after him and he had like a pattern. And so he was trying to change up the pattern a little bit.
If you're killing low-end street hookers out of the fucking hood, it's a lot easier, too. Because she's getting into cars with multiple dudes in each day. She's also trying to evade the police when they're leaving together, So she's a much better victim profile. You're gonna get away with that, probably. They usually do. Because think about it. If you abduct some chick, it's hard to she's gonna be trying to signal the fucking police and shit.
Well, yeah, of course.
So you got to keep her low.
Why do you think so many serial killers target sex workers?
If she's a hooker and she's trying to sneak off with you, and she's looking over her shoulder for the cops too, then
serial killers
she's
absolutely know that.
Helping you fucking run off with her and abscond with her. She doesn't realize that's what she's doing, but that's what she's doing.
But I mean, that was absolutely not the case here, because he just targeted innocent ass people that were just working at their regular ass jobs.
But he's going off the beaten path for a fucking robber.
Grabler says, I reject the notion of master intelligent criminals, as do I. I dealt with thousands of these guys. Even the ones with street smarts were dumb as fuck.
Yeah. They're graded on a much lower curve.
Yeah, I mean, intelligent for a serial killer wouldn't be intelligent for a normal person. I guess. You know what I mean?
Best one would have been what's his name, and fucking he was a fake, fucking shitbird who thought he was a lawyer, pretended to be
Bundy.
Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was a mastermind for a serial killer, but
he wasn't really that bright.
Yeah,
honestly.
he wasn't that bright. Maybe 110 IQ.
So I mean, for a serial killer, that's pretty smart. But
yeah,
like
110.
And he for real wasn't as smart as he thought he was.
No, he couldn't really pass college or anything.
He
didn't have the.
He was just one of those guys that was really insecure about that and acted like he was smarter than he
acted like smarter than he really was. And,
you know what I mean?
And
and people that aren't
fell for it.
Well, people that aren't that smart will be like, yeah, he seems really smart, but like people that are actually smart are just kind of like.
He fooled his judge though. The judge says you'd have made a great attorney, boy. I don't know what happened with you.
I know. I still can't believe that motherfucker said that. I was just like, shut the fuck up. He fucks severed heads. Come on now.
Yeah.
It's like he's not smart or cool or like fucking. He ruined his whole entire life. You know what I mean? As well as the lives of countless other people.
He couldn't manage his own life.
Don't give him a fucking inch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he couldn't manage his own life. He couldn't live a normal life.
I just like that still makes my jaw drop that fucking judge said that. And there's footage of it. I mean, I'm sure that judge is dead now because it was a long time ago, but it's just like, holy crap.
The best one was D'Angelo. He was actually the smartest one. And most competent one. Most dangerous one. And you don't hear much about him.
Well,
and he was still weirdo.
Well, yeah.
Dude was fucking weird,
Yeah. I mean, it took him forever to catch him, but they finally did. And they really only caught him because of a fluke, because of DNA, you know what I mean? A DNA that someone else had uploaded. And they finally caught him. All right, so let's get into talking about this because there's a lot of shit we got to talk about. Okay, so the first crime that is conclusively attributed to who would later be known as the I-70 killer, also known as the I-70/I-35 killer, but that's a little clunky. So, because not all of the crimes most of them were in proximity to I-70. If you don't live in the United States, I-70 is like the main east-west interstate. It goes across almost the entire country, much like I-95 goes all the way up and down the East Coast. This one goes, I'm not sure if it goes all the way to like from Atlantic to Pacific, but it spans like a large portion of the country. All of these crimes happened, the canonical ones all happened in the Midwest, like in 3 or 4 different states. And then there was a later series that happened in Texas that they're not sure was the same dude, but it could be. You know what I mean? Oop, thank you very much. We got a super chat from Tim Bray.
Thank you very much, bro.
Thank you very much with your little kitty or fox or whatever that is. It's a kitty or a fox.
It's a fox.
All right. So this was the first one, and this happened on a Wednesday during the day. He didn't do shit at night. It was always like just in the middle of the day. April 8th, 1992. And the first victim was a 26-year-old woman named Robin Fuldauer. And she managed a Payless shoe store. Remember those? Do they still have Payless?
Maybe. That was ended up being a mall shoe store.
Yeah. This one was a standalone. It's not there anymore. Because I saw footage of it. It was a standalone. I think it's a what do they call that store now? Batteries and Bulbs. I think it's one of those now. Like that's a franchise. It's one of those, but it was a standalone Payless, which I don't think I've ever seen now. Because every Payless I've ever seen, I think, has been in a mall, or at least a strip mall.
Move the camera down a little bit. Okay. Just getting the ceiling.
Well, I have to.
No, just getting
be
the
able to see that, and you're making it like a weird angle now.
Okay.
All right. So this Payless shoe store where she worked at was on Pendleton Pike, which was like northeast of the downtown of Indianapolis, and she had actually been a salutatorian at her in her high school class, and she worked at this store. She was one of only 2 full-time employees. I think they had some part-time employees because that's how companies do, because they don't have to give me insurance. But she was one of the full-timers, and then there was one other full-timer. And she was actually, this is kind of fucked up. This happened a couple times, like in this series. She was actually not scheduled to work that day, but the other full-time person called in sick. So Robin went in to fill in for them. And obviously she knew that she would be working alone. I don't know. Like, I think smaller stores like this, I don't even know if they do this still anymore, like letting somebody work alone like that. I guess they probably do. But I think like the bigger corporate chains like usually say that you have to have at least 2 people, but I don't know. So she's working in there by herself. Now, this wasn't, like I said, it was on a major road, and there was a big Speedway gas station and convenience store like right next to it, which is still there as far as I'm aware. Um so she didn't think anything of it. Like I said, it's the middle of the day, right? So they think that the killer came into the store at about 1:15 in the afternoon. They know that the last purchase on the register, somebody, I don't know if it was the killer or not, it was probably somebody else, but somebody had come in and bought a pair of men's shoes and a pair of women's shoes, and the register said registered at 1:12 p.m. So they think that maybe that person made their purchases and left, and then the killer came in afterward. Now, they think that whoever the killer was got control of Robin without really creating a disturbance. It's possible, going by what some of the later shit, the later crime scenes suggested, is that he might have come in and browsed around and acted like a normal customer, and then all of a sudden pulled the gun out and either like forced her into the back storage room. Once she was in the back storage room, he basically just shot her twice in the head.
Yeah, in the back of the head usually.
Like in the back of the head, like execution style.
Which means he can't face him when he's killing him.
Yeah, or
they
something.
They don't know what's happening. He don't get turned around. They don't know what happened.
And then he just shoots him.
They don't even know what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I find that that's telling that he can't face them while he's killing them. It's almost like he's ashamed of it. It's a weird signature.
It is, yeah. But like I said, it could just be that he gets off on them not knowing that he's going to shoot them.
Maybe.
Like maybe it's a power thing.
Yeah, a lot of times with the power thing, there's maybe that's one way to interpret it, but it's not as sadistic as facing them.
Well, it's also not as sadistic or stabbing or strangling. Yeah, it's just like shooting them, which is almost like impersonal.
Yeah,
in a weird way.
It's almost like business. But
yeah, like I said, it's almost like a hitman kind of shit.
Right.
Where you just walk in and pop somebody.
Yeah, it's not a normal serial killer signature.
Yeah, that's why he's so unusual. That's why like people are kind of fascinated by this case, because it's not usually serial killer behavior. Yeah. I mean, he for real has a pattern and like a way he goes about things, which is a very serial killer thing. It's just not usually, like I said, he doesn't seem to be getting anything sexually out of it.
Yeah.
Like none of the victims were sexually assaulted.
The power trip isn't there.
Yeah, it seems kind of weird.
There's no threat there. A lot of them like the impending doom. I'm going to kill you. How's it feel? That kind of shit. He's not doing that. It's weird.
Yeah, it is pretty weird. So he shoots her, leaves her in the back room, like closes the door to the storeroom, and then he goes out, opens the register, and takes some of the money out. I think there was only like $90 in there or something. And they think he was probably out of there like 10, 15 minutes tops.
No cameras in the store at that time.
No, it was 1992. Yeah. Some stores had cameras, but it was just a little.
They are everywhere now.
Yeah, now they're everywhere. But there's whole ass.
And they still got dudes that do this.
They got whole ass true crime shows. That are nothing but killers that got caught because they were on CCTV cameras.
Yeah, some of these dudes are so dumb they don't realize that cameras are fucking everywhere.
I will note that one crime that's possibly in this series, they don't know if it's the same guy, that happened like I think 10 years after this one, in Texas. That entire thing was captured on video.
Yeah. And
you get an okay look at the dude's face, but they don't know if the dude is this guy. It could be, but
here on YouTube there are true crime shows that are nothing but body cam footage of the cops talking to, and then they even got the crime on fucking camera and everything. Just it's amazing that the whole fucking scene is now videotaped, or not video. It's not even tape. It's recorded on video, and you still got young people committing these crimes. You think that they grew up in a world filled with cameras,
Like, you just
You
have to
would think
assume
that they would know that
that they're going to be
just
watched at all
because
times.
you don't see a camera doesn't mean there isn't a camera there. These things are tiny.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
So these new cars have cameras in them. You'd never see them.
Inside the business,
Inside
outside the business.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
People's houses have Ring cameras on the front.
Imagine what these perverts can do. Leaving
Well,
little cameras around in places.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, fucking wireless fucking connection to the camera.
Well, didn't they catch a couple landlords for doing that? Or like dudes that, like
sure.
sketchy dudes that ran hotels or whatever?
It could be sketchy dudes just put it in a fucking woman's bathroom and just fucking wait.
Well, yeah, I think there's been cases of that.
Yeah. They got a Bluetooth connection to the thing. They're just recording it.
Granther says, if you want a day void of even the smallest of pleasures, then drive across Indiana. Boring. Yeah. Cornfields and trees and flat as hell. Maybe that's why this guy killed. He was bored as fuck.
Nebraska's like that too.
Yeah, I've heard Nebraska's even worse. I've never been to Nebraska. Yeah. I've never been to Indiana either. As a matter of fact, but...
somebody once who lived in Nebraska, right? Fucking said that one of the hidden advantages in Nebraska is that the sex is fucking wild as shit because nobody sees anybody. So if you're a man, you just see a woman sees you, you're fucking that night. If you're single.
Thank God, a person.
As long as both people are single, you're going to be fucked. And it sounded plausible because Mississippi was kind of like that when I was young.
Well, back in the day when there's really... Nowadays, everyone's got the internet, so you can just play video games. But like back then, like when there was nothing to do, there was nothing to do. Yeah, it fucking... You're in Heidelberg, Mississippi. There's like 700 people, and a fucking new teenage girl shows up. Oh, we're fucking now. And then, this shit would fucking throw down. Yeah. Zach says, Gramthers, you know what you're talking about, and as a longtime resident of Indiana. It's like, ugh. I mean, like I said, it's probably not as bad as it used to be. Like, in the pre-internet era, like, there was literally, if you were at some place where there was nothing to do, there was, like, nowhere to go. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have anything to do. So like I said, this whole crime took place 10-15 minutes, and then the dude left, and nobody saw him, apparently. And the creepy thing about this creeped me out for some reason, this detail, is that the store didn't appear to be a crime scene. Like, he took her in the back and shot her and then closed the door, like, to the storeroom. So people came in the store and, like, looked at shoes and, like, looked around and were like, huh, and they thought it was weird that, like, there was no employee there, but nobody thought it was weird enough to, like, call the cops or anything. I think maybe I heard on a couple of documentaries that a couple people came in and stole some shoes, which I'm like, yeah, that tracks. But I think people just kind of came in and looked around and then were just kind of like, oh, I guess nobody's here. And then they just left. You know what I mean? So about an hour and a half later, like at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a district manager of the store who had been calling the store and hadn't been able to get an answer, like, you know, for like an hour and a half. And so he called the employee at the Speedway, the convenience store / gas station that was next door, and said, hey, you know, I'm trying to call the Payless, and it's like, you know, somebody's supposed to be there and nobody's answering. Can you go over there and check? And so this woman, and then they actually interviewed her on the People magazine thing. Her name was Lucretia Gullett. And she kind of knew Robin because Robin would come in on her lunch break and, you know, get snacks and stuff like that. So she had, like, you know, seen her for, you know, pretty regularly. So she walked over to the Payless and she saw that the cash register was unattended and that it was kind of open. And she's like, yeah, this isn't right. And there was like a woman and a kid like shopping in there. And Lucretia's like, I think something's wrong in here. Like, you guys need to leave and I'm going to call the cops. So she called the cops. So she didn't go in the back or anything like that. She's like, she's glad she didn't because, you know, that would have been really traumatizing. So she called the cops and the cops showed up and they were the ones that found the body. So even though there had been traffic, like I said, it's the middle of a Wednesday, you know what I mean? It's on a major road. You know, there's footage of when it was still a Payless and it's just there, you know, there's a highway like right by it. So cars going by, there's a very busy gas station like right there. Like, you can see into the parking lot, you can see people walking around, but despite that, nobody saw the person that walked in there and did this. Now, because some money had been taken out of the register, not a lot, like I said, they determined, I think it was $90, I think was the amount that it was. But, you know, they were like, well, that seems a little weird because the amount that was taken seemed pretty small, like compared to the risk involved and, just shooting the girl for no reason. It's like, if you held her up at gunpoint and said, "Hey, give me the money," they would just give you the money and then you could just leave, you know what I mean? So it seemed like weird to just go through all the trouble of taking her in the back and shooting her. Now, obviously, this was strange. They thought maybe it was a robbery, but kind of weird, you know what I mean? But they were like that. They thought that's probably all it was because, when they looked into Robin's background, it's like, there's no reason, like nobody would have wanted her dead or anything like that. So they were like, well, it must have been that. But what they didn't know on April 8th was that this was going to be the first in a series. 3 days after Robin was murdered, there was another murder, but this one was in Wichita, Kansas, which is almost 700 miles away from Indianapolis. So this one took place in like a bridal shop called Le Bride d'Elegance. It was actually owned by, I believe it was owned by a husband and wife. The wife was named Patricia Magers, and she was 32 at the time. And her husband also owned like a tuxedo store that was like right next to it that was called Sir Knight, I think, or something like that. So Patricia Magers was the owner of the bridal shop, and she was in the store on this particular day in Wichita. And she also had a 23-year-old employee named Patricia Smith, and she was a bridal consultant. So they're in the store. This was Saturday, April 11th, 1992. Now, the store was supposed to close at 6 o'clock, but a man had called earlier and said it was for a wedding, you know what I mean? And he said, "Oh, I forgot my cummerbund. I need to come pick it up, but I'm not sure I can get there before 6 o'clock." So Patricia Magers and Patricia Smith said, "Oh, we can stay a little bit late if you want. Like, if you want to just come pick it up, we'll stay here in the store for you like a little while." So that's all. They just decided to stay. Shortly after 6 p.m., somebody came to the door of the bridal shop. And the women obviously thought it was the dude coming to pick up his cummerbund, right? Because he had called earlier and said he was going to pick it up. So they opened the door and this other guy comes in. And he immediately pulls a gun on them because there's two women. They're not really sure if he was expecting there to just be one or if he was flustered that when there was two women instead of one. They're not entirely sure. But he forced them again into the back room and ordered them to lay face down. I believe some reports said that he bound or restrained them. And then he shot one of the women once, and then Patricia Magers, he shot her twice, like in the head. Now, apparently this store did have a panic button in it, but everything happened so quickly that they didn't have time because they weren't by the register. They were at the door because they thought they were letting in the guy that was coming to pick some stuff up. Now, I'm not sure. Like, I also saw reports. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but this did come up in some of the timelines that I saw, that the dude had tried to muffle the pistol with like a wedding veil, maybe, because it was a bridal shop. So because of this, they thought, well, maybe he was worried about like the shots being heard because it was in a strip mall. Like, it was a little dinky strip mall. It was the bridal shop and then the tuxedo shop next door, and there was a couple other shops like on the other side.
It's odd because it's a 22 long rifle pistol, and it was described by the witnesses as having a pretty long barrel with a four stock. That'd be a good way to put it. They call it a four grip. It is not a grip. It's got a forward stock on it, like it was part of some kind of a fucking carbine or something with a removable buttstock. But they drew it as a Irma fucking P08 Luger replica. And it was like a replica of a Luger artillery model. which you could attach a buttstock to, and it had a long barrel with a foregrip on it, or a forestock on it. Forearm. That's the proper term for it. But it was in 22 long rifle. It wasn't in 30 Mauser or 9mm. And if you guys aren't in the suppressor game or suppression, on TV they'll call it a silencer. It is not a silencer. It does not make a pistol or a rifle silent. You know shots have been fired. It's just suppressed. A suppressed pistol, say like a 9mm or 45, puts out about the same amount of decibels as an unsuppressed 22 pistol, which is mild, pretty mild. You don't need hearing protection for it. So it's funny that he thinks he has to suppress something that kind of is already suppressed. Now, if you put a suppressor on a 22 long rifle pistol, it's not silent, but it's fucking quiet. A little bit louder than an air gun. But people don't take other things into account. Usually, when you shoot somebody with a pistol, they scream bloody murder if they're not killed outright. So just because you couldn't hear the shot being fired doesn't mean you won't hear the person who's been shot. Because they start, freaking out. Unless it's
understandably.
Yeah, right. So this is something from the movies this is a movie concept where you can silently kill someone with a pistol shot and nobody knows shots have been fired, and you get, it actually doesn't happen per se, or if it does happen, the suppressor had nothing to do with it. Like you could have an unsuppressed 45 or 9mm and shoot somebody in a house, and the people in the other houses didn't hear it. They won't hear it. If you were in the house, you might say, what the fuck was that? And go up there for an investigate it, and then you'd get shot. But there was no suppressor involved. So they don't really affect crime. The shots are either heard or they're not. And sometimes they are heard and they don't realize that it's a damn fucking firearm. And if you had to say it's like something with a suppressed pistol and you're in public and you open fire with that, everybody knows shots are being fired. It'd be the same as you standing out there with a 22 long rifle pistol fucking firing at people. They'd scream and start running. So suppressors don't hide anything. If you take a 22 long rifle and then try to suppress it by putting a veil around it, why? Why would you even bother?
Well, as I mentioned, I didn't see this detail mentioned on some things, but I did see it mentioned on other things. So I just thought I'd mention it. He might not have done that.
Yeah. It's an important detail, though.
But I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
I only saw it mentioned in some places and not others.
He's thinking.
So I don't know how accurate.
He's thinking he's being really slick. He wouldn't have had to have done that. You know what I mean?
Well, and
it's already pretty quiet.
And I think at this point, because it was past 6 p.m., like I said, the two women had stayed late because they were waiting for that guy.
Yeah.
And I think the other businesses were closed already. I mean, there was other shit around. Like I said, it was on a busy road.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
It's just funny that he.
Like I said,
he had to do that.
I don't know if he really did that or not.
Right.
I'm just saying I saw it mentioned a couple places. Now here's another thing that's crazy. So he shoots these two women in the back room. And then I don't actually know if he stole any money from this place. If he did, it wasn't very much. But so he comes out of the back room, and remember how I said, the two women were staying late because that guy had to come pick up a cummerbund for his wedding. That guy showed up.
Yeah.
And he walks in, and he sees this dude coming out of the back room, and the dude pulls the gun on him. And the guy's like, hey, man, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I don't have anything to do with this or whatever. And the guy tried to get him, the killer, tried to get him to come into the back room too. And he's like, nah, son, I'm not doing that. And the killer, let him leave. Now, the killer was not wearing a mask or anything like that. And matter of fact, the cummerbund guy is the guy that gave the very famous police sketch because he saw his face. He saw him. Now, because the guy he didn't know that 2 women were dead in the back room. Like, he just walked in, a guy pulls a gun on him, and he's just like, see ya, bro. Like, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't know what was going on. So it took him an hour before he called the cops because he was like thinking about it. He wasn't sure what was going on. So finally, an hour later, he called the police, and the cops showed up at 7:30 and found the 2 women dead in the back. I think, like I said, some money was stolen, but it was like a tiny amount. You know what I mean? It wasn't, I don't know how much it was, but it wasn't much. Now, so the customer finally said, yeah, I saw the dude's face. Like I said, he wasn't wearing a mask or anything like that. So he described him like pretty well. He's like, it was a slender white male, about 5'6", 5'7", had reddish hair or like sandy blonde or kind of strawberry blonde hair, like cut short. He had a brown jacket on. Said he didn't look imposing or creepy or weird or anything like that. He did say that he had kind of droopy eyelids and that one of them was droopier than the other, which you can see in the sketch. Like, not so much that it looks deformed or anything like that, but it's like noticeable, you know. He said he wasn't wearing a disguise or anything like that. He just looked really ordinary. And he said the gun, he wasn't sure what kind it was, but he said it was a pistol, but it had a long barrel on it. He almost said, he's like, it almost, and he said it had wood on it too. Like, he said he'd never seen one like that. It was like unusual looking, but he didn't know what kind of gun it was. Now, because of the gun, and they had found shell casings at both this scene and the earlier one in Indianapolis. And like I said, within a few days, ballistics had matched up those 2 crime scenes, which were, like I said, like 700 miles apart. Because I think when this happened, at first they were just kind of like, oh, you know, weird, like robbery gone wrong. But then I don't know if one of the cops on the force had like heard about the Indianapolis case like 3 days before, or somehow it got through. It's like, hey, there was another case like this 3 days ago in Indianapolis. So they got together pretty quick. And they said, okay, well, we found shell casings at both scenes. So they got ballistics together and compared them and said, yeah, that's the same dude. It's the same gun. So yeah.
Raptors thinking that it might be a Ruger 1022. No, it's not. It was described by another person as basically being a Luger artillery model, but it's in 22, so that matches up with a Irma, which is
a Irma Werke.
Irma Werk, which was a German company.
Is what it was.
It was German, but
which I would have got.
They sold Luger copies in 22, in the 60s and 70s, and they were okay quality pistol, but that's what it is, and it was the artillery model of the Irma Werk 22, which is a fake Luger. Fake Luger is what it is. But it has if you look at the Luger artillery model from World War I, it had a longer than normal barrel, and it had a 4-stock, okay, flat 4-stock underneath it, and a detachable butt stock. And then they would put like a 32-round 9mm snail drum underneath there, kind of like a Thompson submachine gun, the other side. And it had large elevation, like tangent sights on it, like on a rifle. It wasn't full auto, though, I don't think. I think it was just semi-auto.
Yeah, it was semi-auto.
Well, I'm talking about the original 9mm.
Well, this one was.
It's just semi-auto. But yeah. the original 9mm version of it, I don't think it was select fire. I think it was semi-auto only. And they gave them to artillery men, you know, guys that carried cannons, and they gave them that instead of a bolt-action rifle for self-defense, so they could guard that cannon. In World War I, it was okay, you know, but it not very reliable. Not in that condition, all that mud and shit, you know. But they're worth a lot if you can find one. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Not many of them survived. But Irma Werk made 22 replicas of it. That shot, yeah. And that's what it is.
Yeah, they had pictures of it, like all over.
Yeah.
Because
it's
kind of an unusual gun to be robbing places with.
Yeah, it's a sporting gun. It's kind of a toy.
It's like a collector's item more than a robbery style.
Yeah.
because they said it's not super like like it jams all the
Yeah.
time. Like it's kind of known for
It's
that.
not very good. Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, it's kind of a strange thing to be using
was
if you're
a toy.
robbing stores.
It was basically a toy that shot 22 long rifle.
And it's fairly distinctive looking
Yeah.
too, which would seem to be another.
You couldn't get the Lugers, but you could get that 22. And they were German, but they were in Germany was exporting them here. They were made a lot different than the original Luger, though. I don't think it was a toggle action. Maybe it was a toggle action. I have to go back and look at it. Toggle actions are kind of, yeah, I think it was a toggle action, which don't work very well. It's obsolete early 1900s, 1908 design. Look cool, though.
All right. So after this double murder that happened in Wichita, Kansas, there was a gap of 16 days. No one's entirely sure what the killer was doing during this time period. Could be that it was a cooling off period like serial killers have. Could be he was worried that they had linked the two crimes so fast, which maybe he didn't think would happen because they were so far apart. Who knows? Or he could have just been doing something else. And then, like 16 days later, he did something kind of strange. So like I said, he killed the first victim in Indianapolis, and then he drove 685 miles to Wichita and killed those two women. And then you would kind of think, if this is like a mobile serial killer that's kind of doing a road trip or whatever, you'd think that he would keep going west, but he didn't. He drove back east toward Indianapolis. But he didn't go all the way to Indianapolis. He actually went to Terre Haute, which is also in Indiana, if you're not from the U.S., which was about 70-ish miles, something like that, from the first crime scene. So he went 700 miles and then came back like about 600 miles, like for the next one, which kind of weird. So April 27th, 1992. Like I said, Terre Haute, Indiana. And this victim, the only one of the canonical that was not a woman. The victim's name was Michael McCown, better known as Mick. He was 40 years old. He was apparently a delightful human being. He was a musician. He was in a bunch of bands. And he had been to, I think, like a chiropractic appointment that day. And then he was going to like take the rest of the day off. But then his mom owned a store called Sylvia's Ceramic Supply. And he went in to work. He worked in that store like to help his mom out. So this shop, a very, very small shop, it didn't even have, as far as I could determine, it didn't even have like a front entrance. It had like a back parking lot and like a back door. It just sold like a lot of, stuff if you're making ceramics or like unpainted ceramic, like things like that. It just had stuff like that. And it was pretty small. So the store was on Highway 41, which again, very well-traveled road, just not that far, like north of Interstate 70. They think the killer came into the store a little after 4 p.m. So again, middle of the day. Now, this one worked out a little bit different, and they're not entirely sure what the deal with this one was. They actually found Mick's body, like just inside the store. Like it looked like he'd been like on his hands and knees, like putting something on a shelf, like, or where he was reaching something like on a lower shelf or something. And the dude just came in and shot him. They were not, at least from the angle of the bullet and everything like that, they said it didn't even look like he turned around. Like it looked like the dude just kind of snuck up on him. You know what I mean? And just like shot him in the head without him even knowing he was there. They're like, or there's a possibility too that the guy did come in and was just acting normal and said, hey, can you show me that thing? Like, and then when his back was turned, because he did that at like some of the other scenes too. So it could have been that, like he
distracted him.
Yeah, because they said that the shop, as far as I know, did have a bell on the door. So it's like, so you would have heard of some. So he might have just come in and been acting normal. But this guy, he didn't make him go into the back room. He did nothing like that. He just shot him where he was, like just inside the store.
Yeah, he thought he'd give him a problem.
It could have been that. Now the killer did take money from the store, but it was less than $50. Like I said, this is a tiny little ceramics business. I mean, obviously it's not going to be like have a lot of money in it or anything like that. Now, Mick was the only known male victim in this 1992 series. And they were kind of puzzled about that. And the most persistent theory, I don't think I buy this, but was that, oh, well, maybe the killer mistook him for a woman. Because Mick, he was a musician, he was, kind of slim, he had long hair, and sometimes had an earring in, and the store was called Sylvia's, which was actually his mom's name, because his mom owned it. So they're like, well, maybe from outside the store, maybe he looked in the store from outside and thought it was a woman, and then walked in, and then realized it was a man and just shot him, like instead of taking him to the back room.
Maybe.
But the thing about that, though, like,
he could have backed out of there, though.
Because like I said, it's possible that he just walked in and was acting like a normal customer, and then pulled the gun out when the dude's back was turned.
I think he's selecting women because he sees them as weak.
Yeah.
Okay, so
because this isn't a big dude. I mean, it's a slender dude. He's only 5'6", 5'7".
Yeah, so he sees women are weak. They're not a physical threat to him, so he can take them easily. Maybe he thought that was a woman, but when he got in there, he's like, well, I could take him. He's no problem. And his back was turned, so he shot him in the head, and then got what he wanted and left. But he didn't say go into the back room, because he probably figured he couldn't get the guy to do it, and he probably didn't really have to anyway.
Yeah, and the guy was bigger than him.
Yeah,
so
and then he got his $50 and he left. You see, for people who don't live in the United States, during this time, a .22 long rifle round was probably like 2 cents. You could buy, a whole brick of that shit, about 1,000 rounds for $20. The shit was cheap. So it's not like he's losing money by shooting these people with a .22. So from his point of view, for a few cents, he's converting that 2-cent bullet into $50. So it's profit. I really don't think he's got no value on these humans at all. He didn't care. He's a fucking psycho. He might get a charge out of it also. It's like, that was funny.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is kind of more like a thrill kill situation.
Yeah.
Like, he seems to like the power that he has over people just walking in and acting all normal like, and then being like, hey, bam, you know what I mean?
And then he gets his $50 and goes, I'll put some of this in a tank and I'll go get something to eat. And it's like that. That's what he's doing. And he doesn't think this is a big deal.
Well, clearly not.
Yeah.
Gramther says, Kansas, this guy was intruding on Dennis Rader territory. I bet Dennis was pissed.
Yeah.
Said maybe Tom can reenact how Dennis reacted when this cat
this was terrible for the community. He should have never shot these good people while they were work. It was terrible,
Terrible.
Yeah. And he's driving around in that car, and he doesn't even have a lawn. So, I can't go and like measure his grass, So he's just unacceptable,
Yeah, Dennis needs to be able to measure
He needed to go to church. Church would have helped him.
He needed Jesus.
Yeah, of course.
Count Orlock says, back in the 90s, 2 dudes who worked at a convenience store faked a robbery by shooting each other in the ass with a Derringer. Cops thought it was strange that the robber would just shoot their ass.
Yeah,
that is strange, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously they got caught. It was just like, what kind of dumb... It's like, yeah, just shoot me in the ass. They'll just like, yeah.
They'll never suspect.
They'll never suspect.
He shot both of y'all in the ass. Yeah, we were running. Ow! And then he went, ow! Yeah. That's funny.
Man, that's a pretty
Although
funny situation.
Although that would be funny if a dude came in and robbed a dude and fucking pow, pow, and shot both the dudes in the ass and then just ran out of the store.
Well, that probably gave a robber
happen.
like some idea. He was just like, oh, next time I think I'm going to shoot him in the ass.
Yeah,
and
they'll never believe it happened.
Then they'll think they did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? See?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Big brain. But
because no, I totally would imagine some dude going, "Get all the fucking down on the ground, give me that shit, give me, pop, pop, take that," and then they're running,
right in the ass.
Yeah, right in the asses. Yeah.
It's like, that dude just shot me in the ass.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. Take that shit back to India with you. Something like that.
What a douche.
Be like that.
Yeah.
Shooting the Pakistani guys in the ass. It's something. Yeah, I can totally see it.
Yeah, like I said, if they thought it was
know
funny.
he knew Detroit. Wouldn't those Detroit dudes shoot the Pakistanis in the ass? Yeah, they would. They would shoot them in the ass.
I could see that happening.
Yeah. The thing is, though, is that they usually got their asses kicked. Those fucking Pakistanis that owned those fucking stores were armed to the teeth, and they fucking fought, man. No, they usually ran them out of there.
I mean, that's their
They
livelihood.
called them in Michigan. They called them Arabs. Arabs.
They called them that here too.
Arab. No, they pronounce it Arab.
I know.
It's
They
fucking
called
hilarious.
them that here
It's
too.
the way Michiganders used to pronounce.
My grandpa,
Arabs.
who was from Tennessee and
But
then
those
moved to
called
Florida,
Arabs.
also
Yeah,
called them that.
Arabs.
I
Yeah.
think that was pretty widespread.
Yeah, and it was mostly Pakistanis and Lebanese, from what I remember, and Iraqis. But Michiganders just all called them Arabs.
There's like whatever.
Arabs, yeah, they're all the same.
But yeah, so okay, so the thing that complicates this theory some is that I believe, at least according to some reports that I read, that at the time that he was murdered, Mick did not actually have long hair, because on some of the documentaries they had, his family, his relatives and stuff were on there, like his sister was on there, and they were showing pictures of him, and he didn't always have long hair. He had long hair in a couple of pictures, but in most of them, he just had like a regular short haircut, like you would have had at the time. And I believe his sister said that no, he didn't have long hair, like at the time that he was killed. So there goes that theory out the window. But the fact that the store is called Sylvia's kind of maybe suggests, at least this is what they were thinking, that maybe the location choices might be impulsive. It does seem like the killer is targeting small specialty shops that don't seem like they're going to have like a lot of foot traffic, that are likely to have one person working alone, and that there's not going to be any other customers in there, and that no one's going to notice it as much. And it did seem like he was trying to target places where there was a single woman working. And so it's possible that he was just driving by and saw that this place was called Sylvia's, and it's like a little ceramic shop, and he figured, oh, well, I bet you the titular Sylvia is working in there right now. And then when he walked in and saw it was a man, he's like, oh, well, fuck it, I'm just going to take care of it immediately. You know what I mean? So it could have just been a situation like that, because it did seem like he was targeting female employees that were alone. You know what I mean? At least up to this point.
It's less risk to him.
Yeah, because like I said, he wasn't a big guy.
Yeah.
So, he was pretty thin, and everybody said that he didn't look, that saw him said that he didn't look imposing in any way. Like,
he's a weasel.
You know what I mean? Like he was
Little
kind
weasel.
of a little guy.
Yeah.
So, so they don't entirely know like how he was picking places. Like if he was just driving around randomly and was like, oh, that place looks good. Or if he had cased the places out like for a day or two ahead of time, or had a couple different places that he was thinking about. And then like on the day he would decide, they're not really sure.
I think he was just looking at a place that looked poorly defended, manned by women, and kind of out of the way a little bit. You know what I mean? Kind of slightly off the beaten path, off these highways that he's on. Something that didn't have a whole bunch of customers in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that seemed like, that's what I just said. That
yeah.
it's they're like little bitty specialty shops that wouldn't have a lot of people in them.
Right, less witnesses, so he could get in and out of there. And he was doing that, like I said, because it's a softer target. He didn't have the balls to go to a fucking liquor store or a 7-Eleven or a place that would have a bunch of customers in there,
Like a grocery store or something.
Grocery store. Or a place that didn't have customers in there. I mean, it didn't have much money in it.
Yeah. So
he knew that.
Because like I said, I don't think the money was the main. I mean, I think the money was just incidental, or he was just like, I'll take it because it's there. But I don't think that was the main reason he was doing it.
I disagree. I think it was the money. But he was going for very low-hanging fruit. And he could also kill somebody to cover his tracks, because it would only be like one person, maybe two. And then he could get in and out of there and it would be totally invisible. He didn't care that he killed somebody.
Yeah, obviously.
He may have even enjoyed that part. Thought that was really cool.
I think, like I said, I think he was definitely getting a charge.
I don't think that was the main thing, though. I think it was survival. I think it was.
But like I said, if he just wanted the money, why kill the person?
Because he didn't want to leave them there, and then they'd call the police.
It's like he probably could have just like vanished and not been caught. Well, shit, he killed people and they still haven't caught him. Yeah. So it's like, had he just robbed the place, they wouldn't have been looking for him as hard.
But they would have. He's thinking, if dead men tell no tales. That's what he's thinking.
Well, yeah, I know that, and obviously, but it's just
it'll give him plenty of time to get away, and no one will be able to describe what he looked like. So he's like a phantom, in and out. That's all it is. I don't think he's a serial killer in the way of like, you know what I mean, where he's savoring it and thinking about it and it's the main thing. I don't think so. Because if it was, he had plenty of time to do things to these people before he killed them. Because they were alone. So he could have sexually assaulted them. He could have tormented them for a bit. He could have even abducted them. Because if that's the main thing, then that's what they're gonna do. He could have said, "Get in the trunk, bitch," and now he's got her, and he'd take her out somewhere. They do that, but he wasn't that kind of guy. He was a pussy.
Well, like I said, I think his main thing was just like the power thing.
I think it was fucking. I think it was the money, real low hanging fruit, very very low risk, and the killing of the person was just kind of like business. And he was like a sociopath. And he'd pretend like it didn't happen afterwards. It was like that. Sneaky fuck. And they'll never know it was me. And then getting away with it is like it didn't happen. That's what I think.
So yeah, I
just have a different theory. That's how I'm picturing.
So like I said, this one was kind of different from the pattern. They're kind of wondering about that. But meanwhile, only 6 days later, after Mick was murdered in the ceramic shop, the killer crossed over into Missouri. And the next victim was a 24-year-old woman, Nancy Kitzmiller. And she was actually just working here part-time. She wanted to be a cartographer, and she had just interviewed for a position with the Defense Mapping Agency in St. Louis. So she was kind of hoping to get that. So she was working at this Boot Village store. It's like a shoe store. It sold cowboy boots and shit like that. And again, just as in the first case, Nancy was actually not supposed to work on this particular day, which was a Sunday. It was May 3rd. She actually volunteered to cover the shift so another employee could take the day off. So she opened the store, and like I said, I don't think it's Boot Village anymore, but it's in this massive strip mall called Bogey Hills Plaza. The plaza is still there, but it's like different stores, and it's really big and it's really, really busy. It has like this huge parking lot. And it was actually right near one of the exits from Interstate 70 in St. Charles,
Were there any
Missouri.
Cameras in the parking lot?
No, not at that time. Like I said, this is only 1992.
Yeah.
Some places had cameras, but I don't think this one did. Does now, obviously, but
things are fucking everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think it did back then. So like in the previous cases, she was working alone, like I said, because the other employee had called in. Now, sometime between noon and about 2:30 p.m., they believe the killer came in the store. And as in the earlier Payless shoe store crime, he apparently either forced or persuaded Nancy into the back room and then shot her execution style in the back of the head. I believe in this instance, after he left, like customers that came in later found her body, because I don't think it was in the back room, but I think the door was still open. I don't know if he stole. There was actually like a pair of boots, like a brand new pair of boots, like sitting on the counter. So they're not sure if like somebody else had been looking at those, or if the killer had her take them out, like he was gonna buy them, and then he was like, "Oh, by the way, go in the back room," like pulling the gun out.
That's probably what happened.
Yeah, they think maybe because like I said, I think at least in some of the later crimes that they're not sure were him, like he would come in and like pretend to be a customer for a while.
Yeah, that's what he was doing. He wanted to make sure that she was in there by herself.
Yeah, so there was a pair of boots left there, but like
and he didn't take the boots because that would connect him to the crime.
And I'm not sure if he took any money from here. And the weird thing about it was that her purse and stuff had money in it, and he didn't take any of that.
He didn't. Yeah, well, he's moving fast.
Yeah, so
he didn't think of that. No, there was money in the registry, probably, or maybe there was at least some chump change in there. There had to have been, so she could, you know what I mean, break a 20 and that kind of shit. So there had to have been something in the sheet. So yeah, he got something, and he didn't think to go through her purse.
Yeah, I guess
She
not.
probably had more in her purse than they had in the register. But no way of knowing. But see, the thing is that he's going into other businesses and not doing this.
I suspect, yeah, because
So,
well, I'll get to
yeah.
that in a second, but
If it doesn't check out, then he doesn't do anything. He moves on to the next business, and he's striking where the conditions are good. So he goes in there and recon to do a recon of the business, pretends to be a customer, and if it doesn't look good, he walks out. If it looks good, he kills the girl working there, goes through the register. He's looking for the girl because it's easier to dominate. He's a little guy, he's a little weasel, and he feels safer. And getting rid of the witness is his fucking escape plan. They still haven't caught him to this day, so it worked.
yeah, like I said, they still don't know who this fucker is.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, they recovered the 22 shell casings from them, which matched all the others. So they know this is the same perpetrator, and all of the agencies in the various states are comparing information now. It's like, hey, we got another one here, like in Missouri. So it's possible that this murder that happened in St. Charles, may have increased pressure on him or something like that. The composite sketch had been going all over the place, and descriptions of the unusual firearm, which I think at this point they had figured out what type of firearm it was. So they were showing pictures of it, which, like I said, was quite distinctive. They were even like investigating, calling around to collectors and stuff like that. Hey, do you know anybody that's got one of these, or anything, anybody that would know anything about it? So I guess though, if all the publicity was getting to him, it must not have been getting to him too much, because he killed another person only 4 days later after the Boot Village one. This woman was named Sarah Lynn Blessing. She was 37 years old and had 2 kids. Her and a bunch of her friends had just gotten together. Really, it was only like 3 months before or something like that. And they had opened a shop called the Store of Many Colors in Raytown, which is a suburb of Kansas City. Now, this was kind of it was like a new agey or like health kind of shop. Like it had crystals and vitamins and exercise equipment, shit like that. You know what I mean? Physical wellness, spiritual wellness, that type of stuff. But yeah, it hadn't been open that long. Like it was kind of her dream to like open this with a bunch of her friends. So her and all the friends would take turns, like working in the store. And May 7th, obviously, was her day to work in the store. So she got there about noon and, again, was working by herself. Now, she got a phone call from her husband at 2 o'clock, and nothing seemed to be amiss. So they think it was sometime after that point. She didn't feel threatened, or she didn't say, hey, there's some weirdo lurking outside or anything like that. Now, right around 5-6 p.m., the strip mall around there got really, really busy. At about 6 o'clock, the owner of a nearby business, like I think it was like an auction type of business or something like that, he saw a dude kind of wandering around in a way that he thought was kind of sus. And then, like, another witness saw what they presume is the same guy, and he described kind of a slender dude, white guy with, reddish blondish hair, and he had a gray sport coat on and slacks and dress shoes. And they thought it was a little weird because it was almost like he looked like a little overdressed, I guess. Like it was kind of like a suit, but not really. And he was like walking around in the parking lot. Now, this guy who worked in the video store, which I believe was right next door to the Store of Many Colors, his name was Tim Hickman. And about 6:15, he saw this same guy walk directly in front of his store and look at him through the windows. Like he made eye contact. Like the guy was looking in the window. And he saw him. And he said he seemed kind of surprised, maybe. And then he turned and like walked off in the other direction. And then, Tim Hickman said, a few minutes later, he heard a pop. And he said they interviewed him, and it was a few years later, I believe, when they interviewed him for this documentary that I saw, and he was still like fucked up about it. And he's like, at first he didn't know what it was, and he's like, man, that sounded like a gunshot. So he had a gun in his store, so he got it, and he went over there to see what was going on. And he saw the shop door from Sarah's store closing, and then he saw that same guy in the gray sport coat, like, booking it, like, around the building. Like, not running, but rushing, you know what I mean? It, like, went around the building. And so he kind of, like, chased him, but he's like, by the time he got around the side of the building, dude was gone. Like, there was, like, a hill behind there, and I guess he'd gone over the hill, and maybe he was parked over there. So he couldn't find him after that. So then he's kind of like free. He's like, what the fuck was that all about? So then he goes into the store of many colors and sees her. He said, I just saw her feet.
Yeah.
And I knew, like, what had happened. And like I said, he was really fucked up about it. So he obviously called the cops.
Yeah, he's fucked up about it because you always feel like, man, there's something I could have done.
That's what he said.
Yeah,
he's like, there was nothing. It happened super fast.
How could you foresee it?
Yeah.
His response was correct. He heard a gunshot. He went down their arm.
And he went down their arm to see what was going on. Do. Yeah. Yeah, he did exactly the right thing.
It's like that dude who fucking heard gunshots the other day over there at the fucking In-N-Out Burger, and that fucking little weasel shot those fucking 3 people. He went out there, started shooting at him with that fucking suppressed pistol, and it was enough to fucking get that dude to run off and go kill himself. So, good. He did a good job. That's all you could do. Off-duty cop was with him. Yeah, 3 people got killed, but how many did you save by driving that dude off?
Yeah.
He still had a lot of ammo. He might have killed 10, 15, 20 people. So you did what you could. You couldn't save those 3 people. You know what I mean? There's a time to, you responded because those shots were fired. You can't respond before the shots were fired.
Yeah, I mean, you're not.
You wouldn't know.
Like I said, I see why people are upset. I would be upset. But it's like, you can't beat yourself up forever. It's like there was nothing you could do. You know what I mean? Like I said, he did exactly the right thing.
Right.
But yeah, he said he just saw her feet, and he was just like, he knew that she was dead. And then, so the cops came, and obviously she'd been shot in the back of the head, just like the others. So Sarah Blessing was the 6th confirmed victim of the I-70 killer. And the final, she was the last one that was conclusively linked to the 1992 series. Like I said, there was some more, like, later, which we'll talk about, which I'm kind of on the fence, but I think it might be the same guy, at least some of them. But this entire sequence, which spanned, hundreds of miles, 3 or 4 states, took place over 29 days, is all it was. And then they stopped for whatever reason. Maybe. So like I said, they determined that the weapon used in all of them, which were all matched through ballistics, which, like I said, was an Irma work model ET-22. A German-made pistol. Again, kind of a strange gun to be using for this application.
It was never intended for any kind of serious work.
Yeah. Like I said, more of a collector's thing. Like, even some of the cops on the documentary were saying that was kind of more, they didn't work that good.
Yeah.
And they're kind of hard to conceal because, the barrel's kind of long.
Yeah.
And they're kind of distinctive looking. So it's like, a lot of people just like how they look, and they just buy them and keep them in a box.
And then you go take it to the range and shoot it a little bit. It's more of a toy. Range toy.
Yeah, exactly. So they thought it was very strange.
Looks like a Luger. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So
they make the same thing that look just like an AK, but it's 22 long rifle.
Yeah.
Mitchell used to make those. And that was never intended to be anything serious.
One interesting thing that they found about all the shell casings at all 5 of the scenes was they found, like, this red abrasive substance on the cartridges. And these, when they were tested, this material was jeweler's rouge and corundum, which is usually used for polishing. So they're like, either the dude they speculate maybe he was polishing them so they would feed through the pistol better.
Right, yeah. He probably didn't know what he was doing.
Which suggested maybe, that he took care of his guns and, like, knew enough to do that.
He realized it jabbed. He thought maybe he could polish the rounds to get them to feed better.
Yeah.
No, that won't work. Probably not. That's not why that thing jabbed. The thing jabbed because 22 long rifle doesn't really have enough energy to work toggle action. That's something for a bigger cartridge. Just toggle actions aren't any good. The toggle action, okay, toggle actions were from a time before coil springs. They didn't have coil springs. All they had was a leaf spring, which is just like you in the back of your truck or something. It's just, it bends this way, okay? Well, it was a pistol that had a bolt in it that had to cycle back and forth, but you couldn't put a coil spring behind it. So you had to have a toggle, which were two sets of forks with a hinge in the middle that would bend and go straight up, so that when the bolt came back, it would bend in the middle. These two like forks that held the bolt would bend up, and they would impinge on a leaf spring underneath them instead of coil springs. That's a fucking crazy way to do it, but that's what they had to do in fucking 1908, 1906 when they were working on it, because they didn't have coil springs. Well, they had coil springs, but the heat treat on them wasn't good. They'd wear out. It went obsolete a few years later. Other shit had coil springs. They figured out the metallurgy. But man, the Luger looked cool, and it was kind of well made, and it was kind of handcrafted. You had to fit everything together by hand, and it was just from another era. A lot of craftsmanship in it, so it was classy looking. And in 9mm, it worked. Okay, it worked okay. It wasn't totally reliable, but the standards of reliability weren't as high back then. You scale that thing down to a 22, it's normal size, but it's now firing 22. There's just not enough energy in 22 to get that cycle reliably, and then feed rounds out of a fucking spring-loaded magazine. It's probably just bouncing off the back of the fucking receiver wall and fucking going forward and just trying to strip a round off the cartridge. It's just not a good way to do it. But you wanted it to look like a Luger, so there it is. Not going to be reliable. That's just the game. Polishing the fucking rounds aren't going to help. But that's probably exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the possibilities. They said that's probably the most likely possibility.
He's grabbing the front of 22 rounds, and he's trying to fucking get them shiny and fucking polish the lead a little bit so there's less friction. But that's not the problem. But that sounds like something some douchebag would try to do. Yeah. He's probably trying to polish the feed ramps, too, to go in there.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything. Well, they don't have the weapons. So.
Yeah, but they probably had a little feed ramp in there that the fucking nose of the round had to bounce up, and so he's probably polishing that also, trying to get that glass smooth. But that's not the problem. The problem is there's not enough energy. 22 is a little weak cartridge. Yeah.
So, because of the unusual nature of the weapon, especially in crimes like this, they concentrated on that like pretty hard, because they're like, somebody's got to know like where this came from. But really, again, they didn't really get anywhere. And then we're going to talk about like the later crimes in the series, which may or may not be the same dude. If they were the same dude, then he got rid of that gun, or he didn't use it in the later ones, because
got something else.
Well, like I said, the cops will not definitively come out and say it's the same dude. But the MO is very, very similar. But they said the ballistics don't match. So it's like, if it is the same dude, then he's using a different weapon.
Yeah, but it's plausible that he would change.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, that to me seems pretty plausible, especially because they were concentrating so much on the, on the rarity or how unusual that gun was.
It was unreliable and it was too long.
Yeah.
So he went to something smaller that was more reliable.
And he's like, yeah, so it's obviously, maybe he had a bunch of guns and he's just like, oh, I'll just use this other one for the later ones.
What he probably did was went to a damn pawn shop and traded that pistol, that Irma, for something else at a pawn shop, and maybe had enough money to sweeten the deal. Probably that's what happened, because somebody might want a 22 Irma. He might have traded it for something very common and very, like, what caliber are we talking about on the new one? Do you know?
It's also a 22.
Also a 22.
It's just a different.
He probably just traded it for something like a fucking Raven 22 or a Davis, which is fucking. It's a $60 pistol. More reliable, smaller, a little pocket pistol. Probably all it was. You could trade it easy. You could take that in a pawn shop and go, this thing's too big and I can't carry it. I'm looking for something for concealment. Can I trade this for another 22? And these guys looking at that, goes, oh yeah, I could get maybe $150 for that. Here's a little $60 Davis. Yeah, that's probably what he did. Totally plausible. And it's 22. He already has that stockpile of that. So yeah, that's what he did.
But so in the meantime, like after the initial murders stopped, despite, I believe they also did like what do you call, like a profile on him. They had like a good physical description from a couple of different people that had seen him, which matched up pretty well. And 2021 they did an age progressed one. They weren't sure how old he was at the beginning. People said he looked maybe 20s, maybe 30s. So the age progressed one, they did one at like 52, and then they did one of like at like 70. So if he was older when he started out, like, he might look a lot older. So he'd be somewhere in his late 50s to his 80s, like as of 2026. And in the profile, they also said, well, he probably had a job where he traveled. He was probably in construction or a railroad worker, something like that. And he could travel around pretty easily. They said that he probably looked pretty ordinary, and seemed pretty stable. Like, he didn't seem like a weirdo or anything. It's possible that he had a regular ass family life, like a wife and everything and a job, and that nobody thought that he was unusual, because they said that he seemed like pretty calm, like in all his interactions. Like the one guy, the cummerbund guy that had come in, said the dude wasn't freaking out, or he didn't seem alarmed, or he was just like real chill. And anybody like that, like, this is somebody that's probably going to be able to portray normalcy at some.
He's a ninja.
Yeah,
He's
at some stage. So he said he probably just seemed pretty normal. You know what I mean?
He thinks he's James Bond.
I guess so. Yeah.
Nobody suspects him.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously they're coming up with all the different things, like why he stopped, because serial killers usually don't. So like, obviously he could be dead, he could be in jail. They did actually look into people that were arrested around the time that the original 6 murders stopped, to see if anything kind of matched. Didn't really find anything that matched really well. And like I said, because he seemed so mobile, they had to kind of look all over the country, which is like a big undertaking, obviously.
I think he got to where he was going, or he got back to work. His life changed.
Yeah, they thought that too. It's just like maybe circumstances in his life changed or something like that.
And he didn't have to do this. I think this doesn't sound serial killerish to me. It sounds survival to me. I think he's living in that car, and he's picking really low hanging fruit, real low risk robbery stuff, and dead men tell no tales. He's killing the witnesses, and he's choosing places that are staffed by young females that aren't going to give him any trouble. And he's popping them in the back of the head. He considers it to be like a mercy killing. Okay. He's not tormenting them beforehand. And then him getting away with it, he's kind of like pretending to himself that it never happened. He's a sociopath. So, if nobody saw it, nothing happened. That's what it's like that. She didn't know it happened, so nothing happened. It's that. That's what I think it is. And then the situation in his life got better.
Or
he pretended like it never happened.
Or it could be that he kept on doing it because there were some other crimes that happened.
It could be that he accelerated or inflated and went up to ramped it up into another fucking motive, maybe, and the crime would have looked different, though, I think.
Well, here's where we're gonna get into that.
Yeah, if he elevated it, what do you call it? Escalated. If he escalated it, then the crime scene would look different. This is a very pussy crime scene to me. He's pretending like it didn't happen. Something that a little weasel would do. He's not gloating. He's not torturing them. He's not doing stuff. He's just, the shots in the back of the head are unusual. Not serial killers want to look at you. They want it to be personalized.
So the next series, which may or may not be the same dude, occurred in Texas 16 months after the last of the canonical murders in the Midwest. September 25th, 1993, there was a 51-year-old woman named Marianne Glasscock, and she was found dead inside Emporium Antiques in Fort Worth, Texas. And again, this business was a very small specialty store in a strip mall area near an interstate, Interstate 35, in this instance. She had also been shot once in the back of the head, and very little money was taken from the store. And also there was like a concealed um, parking lot, like behind the building, where the person could have parked and like not been seen by other people shopping. Um, and as soon as this happened, they were immediately aware that this was very, very similar to the I-70 killer murders. When they did ballistics, though, it was still a 22, but it wasn't the same gun. So if it's the same guy, like, he had a different firearm, which, like I said, that's not crazy to me. Like,
But that is 16 months later.
16 months later, yeah.
See, what happened is that he got a job for a while.
Yeah,
For
possibly.
16 months.
And it's possibly he got a job in a different part of the country.
Yeah, and then he lost that job. And during that time that he had that job, he got rid of that old 22 and he got another 22. He bought something else. He likes 22 though. It's cheap. It's quiet. It does the job that he needs it to do. What happened was he lost that job. He went back to his old ways. He had to survive again. And he's mobile still, living out of a car.
Yeah, possibly.
That's probably what happened. So he goes back to his old strategies of popping girls in the back of the head for chump change and being a drifter. Sounds like something that would happen in the 1930s during the Depression, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's the way a lot of those crimes
kind of sounds old school.
The old school 1930s Depression crimes were like this. Killing people over chump change, and you're just vagrants moving from one town, hobo riding on a train. That's how they used to do it. And then they'd kill some people and then move on to the next town. In India would be those, what do you call them? Kali worshippers. That kind of shit. Like assassins. Yeah. It's the same guy.
I think these ones, now there was one that was later that I'm not sure is the same guy, but this Texas series sounds like the same guy.
It does. That sounds like the same guy.
But we're getting, there's a couple more.
All right.
So a little more than a month later, on November 1st, 1993, a woman named Amy Vest, she was 22. She was killed at Dancer's Closet, which was a dance apparel store in Arlington, Texas. Again, shot twice in the back of the head. And again, the victim was a woman working in a small shop alone near a major highway, with minimal theft. Like, very little money was taken from the store.
So he's not, and it's a month later, so he didn't steal enough to live off of for a month.
No. No, so like I said, he was only getting like less than $100.
So what he gets,
or just like a few bucks here.
He gets in a pitch and he kills somebody for $100.
Like I said, I personally, I don't think like the robbery is the main thing, because there's other ways you could get money.
Well, might also just be blowing off steam too.
That's what I'm thinking. I think it's kind of more like that. Like, it's just kind of something he likes doing, and then the money's just kind of, oh, okay, might as well take it.
Yeah, maybe.
Now, this was kind of heartbreaking, because Amy actually managed to call 911, and there's recording, obviously, of her call, but she didn't make it.
Had that 22 bullet in her head, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she called and she said she'd been shot, and they got there, and I think she died in the ambulance.
Yeah. She couldn't say who it was.
No. Yeah. She didn't last very long.
I wonder if she saw him. Yeah, she must have seen
him. I mean, she probably saw him, but yeah, she didn't live long enough to.
Yeah.
Now, however, the next victim, January 15th, 1994. So this was a month and a half later, roughly.
Yeah.
A 35-year-old woman named Vicky Webb was working at a gift shop. I believe she owned it, called Alternatives, and this was in Houston, Texas. And she said she survived. And she was interviewed on the documentary, like, at length. And she said this kind of small, thin guy walks in and starts a pretty lengthy conversation with her. She said the way she described him pretty much like the sketch was, except she described him as like older, like he looked kind of weathered, like he had a tan or something, like
We're working
like
outside and
leathery.
a lot of
Yeah,
living rough, maybe
she
drugs
thought he
too.
was maybe mid-30s to 40.
Yeah,
Like she said, he looked like he worked outdoors.
yeah,
And he was about 5'8", pretty thin. And she said that he came in and he didn't seem sketchy or anything. He seemed like pretty normal, and asked like, "Oh, how much, traffic you get in the store, like whatever." And she's just like, "Oh, we don't get much in here, obviously, blah blah blah." And he just was walking around like looking out the windows, shit like that. And then like another shopper showed up and he left and he said, "Oh, I'm going to come back, like I'm going to my niece would really like this place." And I'm waiting for her and we'll come back like later on. So after the other customer left, he came back and he was like watching the parking lot, for obvious reasons. We know. And he was talking to her. She said like he sounded like he'd worked in shops before, like he had some retail experience, and so he was talking about that. And then he's like, "Oh, hey, I think I want to buy that picture frame." It was like a copper picture frame that was over on one of the things. And he's like, "I'm going to get that." And so she went over to get it so she could like wrap it up or ring it up or whatever. And then he just pulled a gun out and shot her in the neck, like while her back was turned. And she remembers it. She was conscious the whole time, which is horrifying. She said she just was like, "Why am I falling?" Like all of a sudden. And then, weirdly enough, this was a weird detail that didn't happen at any of the other things. Said, so she's laying on the floor. She couldn't move, obviously, because she'd shot her in the neck. And then the guy pulled down her pants and underwear, like to her ankles. He didn't touch her. He didn't assault her. He didn't rape her. Nothing like that. He just pulled it down. And then he jumped over the counter and took some money. It was, again, less than $100. And then she was playing dead, but he went back to her and put the gun to her forehead and pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
But it jammed. And then she said he laughed. She said it was like this weird giddy laugh. Like, like what the fuck? What I mean? Like kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then like she said it was really weird. And
Did
then
he know she was alive?
I don't know. Like, I think he was just going to double tap just to make sure. Because she was playing dead, but I don't know how well she was playing dead because that was from her own perspective. But then, like, he heard a car door outside.
Yeah.
So he just took off. But yeah, she said that was so fucking weird. And she said that she would still, and she's much older now, obviously, but it's like, she said if she heard his voice, she would recognize it immediately. Because he talked to her for a long time.
She wasn't paralyzed though.
Well,
from the neck shot.
No, but like I'll get into that. So she laid there, and then like the customers came in the store and saw her laying there like in a pool of blood, obviously, and with her pants down around her ankles, and was like, I've been shot. Can you call the cops? So they called the cops. Now, when she got to the hospital, they said the bullet was lodged in her neck, and the doctor told her, you'll probably be paralyzed. So you probably won't be able to, we need to do surgery and it probably won't work. And she said, she told them, "No, I'm not doing surgery. I'm going to be just fine." She told them. And the crazy thing was she was like, she had to relearn how to walk and stuff and like go to the bathroom and everything. But it only took like less than a year. And she was like back to, they said probably what it was is the bullet's still in her. They couldn't get it out.
Yeah.
But so she's like, so it's still in there. And they said that her spinal column was actually kind of thicker than normal.
Yeah.
They said, which is probably what saved her.
Yeah. Well, 22 long rifle out of a short barrel pistol. I mean, did she say how big the pistol was, or was it a revolver or anything? She didn't see it, did she?
No, he came up behind her.
It's probably a little short pocket pistol like a fucking Raven or a Phoenix Arms or some little small pocket pistol. After that 22 round is chambered into that barrel, after you measure after the projectile towards the exit of the barrel, a lot of times there's less than an inch. So the bullet's not under not being pushed by the expanding gases for very long. So the muzzle velocity, in other words, the speed at which that bullet leaves that muzzle in 22, very low. Might only be 700 feet per second. And it doesn't weigh anything. It's 29 grains, maybe 30 grains, something like that. So yeah, even at close range, sometimes a real thick bone can stop it. The roundness of a skull had 22 long rifles been known to go in and then just kind of deflect slightly off of an edge of the skull, and then the bullet goes around the skull because it doesn't puncture the scalp. It'll just go so you have a hole in one part and then a hole out in another part, and it looks like the fucking bullet went through the skull, but it didn't. It actually went around it because the skin would stretch and sling it out the other end. That's happened before. All kinds of weird shit. This happened with short-barreled 22 pistols at close range against bone. Because, the bones are round, they're hard, they're round, and the tip of a 22 long rifle projectile is not jacketed. It's just lead, and it's round. So it does weird things when a round bone is hit by a round lead bullet that doesn't weigh very much and not moving very fast. Weird effects have happened, including stuff like this. You would think that 22 would punch right through that vertebrae. And it would out of a fucking 16-inch or a 20-inch barrel at that range, but not out of a little pocket pistol like that. It loses a lot of power. Weird. It's weird that they thought she would be paralyzed. Didn't they MRI it or X-ray it? They saw where it was?
Yeah, they saw where it was.
And it was just lodged somewhere near her spinal column. It was in the bone still.
I think so. I'm not entirely sure.
And they thought that maybe, but the nerves weren't severed. They were just bruised, probably.
Yeah, she had to relearn how to walk and stuff.
Yeah, but she got full mobility back.
She did. That means
the connections were there.
Yeah.
So that the spinal column,
didn't take that long. Like I think it took 3 months or 6 months, or I can't remember what she said.
The spinal column was bruised from that fucking impact. Boom.
Because she said as soon as she got shot, she couldn't feel anything anymore, below her neck.
She got lucky.
Yeah, she did.
She got lucky.
So just from the description she gave was similar. She said it was like a shorter, slender guy.
I think it's him.
It does sound like him behaviorally.
Yeah.
The cops are keeping that possibility open, obviously, because the MO is so similar. There are a couple different things. She said he looked really weathered, but that could happen in, that's almost 1.5 years since the last one.
He's probably smoking crack.
Or he's doing something outside, or you know what I mean?
That, and he's a drug user.
It could be that too. Yeah. So maybe he looked like older or more weathered than he had more than a year previously. That's not weird. And obviously it was a different gun, but obviously he could get a different gun. That's not a big deal either.
Yeah, it's easy.
The detail that he pulled her pants and underwear down, to me, almost suggests that he was trying to mix it up so they wouldn't know that it was the same dude.
Like they're trying to throw him off the track.
Because none of the other ones had that.
Yeah.
Just her.
It could have been that he wanted to see her ass too. Let's just see. I bet she got a nice ass. Maybe she had a nice ass. He wanted to see it too, and that's mixing it up. Yeah.
But the detail that creeped me out the most was when he put the gun to her head pulled the trigger and it didn't go off, and she said, and he laughed.
Yeah.
She said it was like a weird giddy laugh.
It surprised him. Yeah.
And I was like, that's creepy as shit. Holy
crap. Yeah, it surprised him. Maybe he thought that was some kind of sign.
That's where my head went too.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought, oh well, that's what's supposed to happen. Then, like I said, some customers pulled up outside,
and
so
he's
he
like,
had
okay,
to
then I don't have to shoot her. Some kind of weird shit.
Yeah, and he'd already. I'm not entirely sure if he knew that she wasn't dead.
I think he thought she was dead.
Yeah, she was playing dead, but because she couldn't move. She said she was paralyzed.
He figured she was gonna die.
Yeah,
he shot her in the neck.
So she's like, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, thankfully she survived.
Yeah.
So
that's him.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
It would be really
it's
weird.
him, and he's kind of evolved a little bit.
I mean, and I'm not saying like the cops are not definitively saying because there's the physical evidence isn't there, um, and they're also making the point too. It's like, well, in sadly, small scale robberies with women working in stores alone are not that unusual.
But they don't go down that way.
But yeah, I mean, there's a couple like real signature things in here
Yeah.
that really suggest to me that this is probably the same dude.
That talking to her and looking out in the thing.
Yeah, because that
kinda
seemed
fits
like
something he would
what
do.
he was doing before.
Yeah.
Like he seemed like he was okay, just like chilling out in there.
Yeah.
And he didn't come across as creepy or weird.
Yeah,
he just
he
came
didn't-
across as
He
regular.
didn't think she was a threat, that she wouldn't give him any problem. And he liked her. Shot her in the back of the neck and then pulled at her pants so he could see her ass too, and it like throw him off the track.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. And he got the bonus of being able to see her ass. I guarantee you, that was part of it. He was probably going, she's got a really nice ass. And he wanted to see it.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
But it's just
Yeah.
I'm just glad she survived. She seemed like she seemed like a real fucking
I had to see what she
determined
looked like in jeans.
woman.
Me and being a man, I'll tell you, says no. He in this particular case, he thought she had a nice ass, and he wanted to see it.
Yeah, I mean,
That's probably what it was.
I'm not a man or a serial killer.
Yeah. I mean, oh man, I'm not a serial killer, but you know what I mean.
That we know of.
Serial killers are men, though. And serial killers are men.
Overwhelmingly,
and
yes,
this one
they
here
are.
is not. I don't think he's particularly. I don't think the motive is particularly sexual.
It doesn't seem like it. No.
I think it's more like he's blowing off some kind of steam. It's a power thing by this time. I think it started off as kind of like survival, but it also was a power trip. It became a thing, and I think it was a lot of times it was just fucking opportunity, and it might have been that these women that he was killing prior, maybe he really didn't really have much sexual attraction to them, but for some reason this one, I think he thought she was hot. He liked that booty, and he wanted to see it. And he figured, well, she's dead, she won't mind if I look. She won't know. Because in his mind, as long as they don't know, then it's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, because it was like Maxwell's silver hammer came down upon her head. That kind of shit. He thinks it's a game. That she doesn't know. What they don't know won't hurt them. It's that kind of mentality.
Yeah. Dudes are scary, man.
He's a fucking weasel.
So so there were those.
Yeah.
And then there was one more. I'm not sure if this one was the same guy or not, although it's possible. I mean, it's kind of similar, but it happened way later, like 10 years later, we're talking. So let's see how this one grabs you. November 30th, 2001. There's a 31-year-old man named Billy Brossman, and he was working by himself at the 7th and 70 liquor store in, again, Terre Haute, Indiana, where the third murder had taken place in the original 1992 series. Matter of fact, this liquor store was only a few blocks from Sylvia's Ceramics, the store where Mick McCown was killed back in 1992. So that's a little strange. Could be a coincidence, but I don't know. Now, unlike all the earlier crimes, this one, pretty much the entirety of it, was captured on security camera. All of which you can see. It's out there on YouTube. So the footage shows a white dude, pretty slender. He actually had dark hair. The perp they described before had like sandy blonde or reddish hair mostly. But, you can dye hair. It's not really that big of a deal. And honestly, it could just be it looked darker on the camera too. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it looked kind of darker to me.
Resolution of cameras back then sucked.
This actually, this was 2001, and the camera footage is actually not that terrible.
Okay, well, this is 2001, so this is a long time later now.
Yeah, like I said, it was 10 years.
10 years later.
It was 10 years later. Like, a little less than 10 years, but yeah. So there's footage of the guy. He walks in, like Billy Brossman, the guy running the shop, he was alone. And you see the guy walk in, and it's totally normal. Like, the guy just walks in like he's walking to the liquor store like you do. He goes to the back cooler. He gets a 6-pack of beer out of the fridge. And then he walks back up to the cash register. He puts the beer down. And then Billy starts to ring it up. And then the dude pulls a pistol out and points it at him. And within seconds, like, Billy just pulls the drawer out and puts the drawer down. It's like, here, take the money. And the guy then, you can't hear him, obviously, but he just kind of goes like that and, like, makes Billy, like, walk out from behind the counter and, like, down the store. And then he turns the corner. Like, from this camera here, you can't really see it. But he turns the corner here, and then the dude just shot him. Like, pop, pop, in the head. Like, by the beer cooler where he had got the beer from before. And then he just leaves the store, leaves the beer there. I think he left most of the money there, too. And he just took off.
It doesn't really quite. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't sound like the same.
It might not be.
Because it's a dude. It's a dude, the victim.
I mean, he did kill another dude. He killed Mick McCown. And he killed him 10 years earlier, only a few blocks from this place.
Yeah.
Like, this was in the same city, and it was only a few blocks away.
And another thing is that this is a liquor store, and that's his first one.
Yeah. Yeah, usually he would pick, like I said, little specialty stores, bridal shop, shoe store, you know, health store, and, like, little shit like that.
Yeah, and I have a feeling he goes in there and scouts it out and talks to the girl that works there for a while. You know, like that one where I think it's that. No, I don't think it's the same guy.
This might not be the same guy.
And too much time has
I think the Texas ones are probably the same guy.
Yeah.
This one, even though the crime is kind of similar and took place only a few blocks
I think it's coincidence
from where one of the 1992 ones took place, that might be a coincidence. I'm not sure, though. Unless, like I said, it's been almost a decade. Maybe he has changed up his shit again, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think he was looking for places that weren't liquor stores and that women worked in.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Like I said, so they don't really know if this is...
Very low traffic.
Yeah, so this case might not be. They bring it up in, you know, in conjunction with this case just because of the similarities. But I kind of feel like this one is maybe not the same series as the other two.
Yeah, and this guy would have been in his late 30s, early 40s by that time.
Yeah, and the dude in the footage... It's kind of hard to tell how old he is, but he looks fairly youngish, like this guy.
I think too much time went by. There would have been a bunch of other killings in between all this. So no, I don't think so. I don't think it was a comeback tour or anything where it was like a one-off comeback thing 10 years later. I think the ones in Texas he did and something happened to him. He died or he went to prison or his life changed in a way where he couldn't do it or didn't feel like doing it anymore.
Yeah, possibly. So because there was footage of this guy, and like I said, you could see his face like fairly clearly. Some people did call in some tips, and a bunch of people that called in like gave the same name, because they said, yeah, this really looks like this dude that we kind of know. So they found this guy in Missouri, and he supposedly worked. He hasn't been named, but he worked for a department store. And he traveled around doing, like, remodeling assignments. So he traveled a lot, like, on the interstates, which they thought was interesting. Now, the man said that he had been in Terre Haute, Indiana, when the crime took place, but obviously denied doing the murder. They tried to get fingerprints because obviously you can see him very clearly on camera coming in and opening the beer cooler and getting the beer out, so you'd think his fingerprints would be on there. But they got fingerprints, but obviously, like, so many people have been in and out of there, like, they couldn't really, you know, get anything any good. So there's that. So they're really not sure if this is the guy that they were thinking that it was. And as far as I'm aware, the authorities are still treating Billy Brossman's murder, just this one, as a separate case. But leaving the possibility open that it was the same guy, like the I-70 case. But they're treating it mostly as a separate case, so they're looking for that guy. You know what I mean? So over, you know, the years since these crimes have been committed, Obviously, they've had thousands of different persons of interest. One of these was a guy named Donald Waterhouse, who was from Tennessee, and he was arrested in 1992 for killing his mom and his stepfather. Um, they kind of looked into him for a while, but then they determined that maybe he was like, he wasn't the right age and he was like a little bit too tall. And so they thought it probably wasn't him. They also looked into a truck driver named Sean Patrick Goebel, who was later convicted of murdering women in a bunch of southern states. And he pinged their radar just because of his mobility and, you know, the violence of the crimes. Kind of understandable. But the victims that he chose, the method, and how he looked were not exactly the same. It didn't really line up. So probably not him. One of the most serious guys came up in 2022 when they looked into a guy named Harry Edward Greenwell. Now, he is a serial killer. Through DNA, they identified him as the I-65 killer. Now, he had murdered and sexually assaulted female motel clerks along I-65 in Indiana and Kentucky during the late 80s. So, you know, it's similar kind of thing going on. Not exactly the same. He was a railroad worker who traveled. He used a .22 caliber gun in some of his crimes, and also had a drooping eyelid, like descriptions of the I-70 killer had. Now, he is dead. He died in 2013. So they, you know, the guys that were handling the I-65 case and the guys that were handling the I-70 case, like, kind of compared notes. And they're like, there are a lot of similarities. You know, guy that travels, he's got the droopy eye. You know, he's targeting women working alone in establishments alongside interstates and shit like that. However, there were also a lot of differences. Greenwell was a little bit older and taller than the descriptions of the I-70 killer. And he was kind of more a sexual assault guy. And he did like more prolonged violence, like kind of more torture type of stuff, and targeted almost exclusively, you know, women that worked in motels, like alongside them. And like I said, he almost always sexually assaulted them, and he stole from the motels as well. So as we mentioned, the I-70 murders didn't have any sexual assault, and appear to have happened pretty quickly. Like, the dude would just walk in, like, chit chat for a few minutes, then go, hey, get in the back room, and then he would pop people and leave. You know what I mean? He wasn't like hanging around, you know, all that long. So I can see why they looked into this guy, because some of the shit's similar, but I think that's like probably too different. So 2021, I think, was kind of the last big thing where because they had representatives from Indianapolis, Wichita, Terre Haute, St. Charles, and Raytown, like all the towns where the crimes took place in the original canonical murders. And they all got together and formed a task force to like kind of reopen the case and see if they could solve it. They also got the FBI and the ATF in on it too. So they did like a review of the case and, you know, went through. They didn't really have like a lot of DNA evidence or fingerprints or anything like that, sadly. They did the composites, like the age progression and all that other kind of stuff. And they got some more tips, but as far as I know, they're not really, or they haven't announced anything. Now, there was a journalist named Bob Cyphers, and they gave him, you know, he wrote a book about the case called Dead End, Inside the Hunt for the I-70 Serial Killer. So he got access to like all the police files and everything like that. And he actually came out and said, and this was only like a couple weeks ago, July 20th, 2026. He did an interview with Men's Journal, and he said that in the spring of 2026, that the police had questioned a really strong suspect and thought that he might be the I-70 killer. They didn't have enough evidence to charge him, and he wouldn't talk, like he wouldn't confess anything. But according to this journalist, at least, that, you know, had access to all the police files and was, you know, communicating with the cops, that it fairly recently they've interviewed somebody that they think might be the guy, but the cops haven't announced anything as of this live stream. So, make of that what you will. It's very possible that they could have found the dude. I don't know. But the journalist said that that they're continuing to watch this guy and they think that he's like a really strong suspect, but I don't know what his name is, and nothing else has come out about it since then. So I don't really know. So it's possible that the guy's still alive and that they've caught him.
Could be total bullshit.
Or it could be bullshit.
Total mind games, maybe.
Or yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I know who you are. I'm on you.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Like in the journalist just referred to the guy as Joe. He didn't say what his name was because he's like he didn't really know what his name was. So that's just what he called him. But that's like the most recent development in this. But as far as the public goes, nobody knows. So this dude could be still out there, could be dead, could be in prison for something else, could be lots of things. I don't really know. Like I said, I personally think, I'm not a cop, obviously, but I personally think the Texas crimes were probably 90% were the same dude as the original Midwest murders. The one that happened in the Billy Brossman case at the liquor store, I think that might be a different guy. But notably, they haven't caught that guy yet either, even though, like I said, you can see him pretty good, like in the video. But I don't know. Like I said, it's similar, but it doesn't seem similar enough to me.
He sounds low income to me. I think he's dead.
Possibly.
Yeah, I think probably drugs.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's what happened to him.
That could be. Yeah, maybe
he sounds like a dude that was living out of a vehicle.
Maybe he got into meth.
On. I think he was a dude living out of vehicles off and on, working construction sites off and on. He'd fucking lose it every now and then and go on a little spree. And it was probably fucking living out of his car, just trying to survive in between jobs. And died. Taking too much fucking meth, something like that. Because I don't think he was stopped.
Yeah, it definitely didn't seem like he was planning on it.
Yeah.
I mean, he did a bunch of them in a month, and then there was 16 months if it was the same guy, and then like he did a bunch more like in another kind of shortish period of time.
I don't think he's in prison because he doesn't sound like the kind of guy that does a brazen type fucking crime. He's and gets caught. He sounds like real cautious, picking real low-hanging fruit. In the criminal world would be considered kind of cowardly, So just,
well, yeah,
I don't see him going, I'm gonna rob this store and get fucking $5,000 this time. Yeah, he'd get caught. But I don't see him as that kind of guy. He's somebody that's scared to go to jail. Scared so much that he fucking pops him in the back of the head over a little chump change. I don't think it's sexual. It might have power, might be in it. But
yeah, I kind of got that impression more than he doesn't really seem to be getting a sexual charge out of it. But I do think it might be some kind of power fantasy.
Kind of like some kind of boost of like, I can decide who lives or dies.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, because maybe he doesn't have much control in his regular life.
Yeah.
And so he's like, this is one thing that I can do, like to assert my will on the world or whatever.
Yeah. They don't know what happened. I'll never get caught. That kind of shit. I'm smarter than everybody.
Oh, they all think
he's
that.
One of those. But I have a feeling that his problem was drugs.
But yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Like meth or something.
Because interestingly, in the Texas crimes, at least according to Vicky Webb, the woman that survived, the description she gave was similar to the one that, the ones from before, but she thought that he was older and that he looked like kind of weathered.
Yeah, drugs.
And it could be that. And like I said, it seemed like, and she said he was
outside.
Yeah, she said he was real like leathery, like tan.
He's working outside, but he's also, doing meth. Or probably meth.
Yeah, that'll age you pretty quick.
Age you pretty quick, yeah, and it's cheap.
So yeah, it probably is something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe he very well might have died
from meth overdose.
From that.
Something. Yeah, or meth related.
Maybe he's just like a hobo. I don't know.
Yeah, became a
They
hobo too. He could have just gotten so bad that he couldn't afford a car and he couldn't afford getting jobs and ended up being just a homeless hobo out in L.A. somewhere and didn't have a gun or ammo and just fucking started a hobo lifestyle and died. Might have been that because he sounds like semi-drifter, semi-hobo
yeah, I
on the
mean like
edge of fucking.
nobody that described him that saw him said that he looked like a hobo. They said that nobody said that he looked dirty or that his clothes were disheveled or anything like that.
But that doesn't mean he's not living out of a
But
car.
yeah,
When
but
he was
that's still
doing that, he
possible.
was living
I'm
out
just
of a.
saying it wasn't like super obvious.
Yeah, when he was doing that though, I think he was living out of a car in between jobs.
Yeah, maybe so.
That's what I think. And you
Just
see,
kind of driving around.
those guys can get good at that shit. You know what I mean? Going to the gas stations and fucking cleaning up and doing their clothes and fucking in the sink and letting it dry out inside the car and yeah they can keep up appearances. And if you're living that kind of lifestyle, all you need is a little bit of gas money and some and he might have if it probably didn't what he stole he probably wasn't living off of that.
Well, it wouldn't have been
Wouldn't
enough.
have been enough. So he was probably
I mean, he
doing
was stealing
other
like $90 here, like
yeah.
$50 there.
That might have been a good little bump for him in his, and I can get some aftershave or I can put this in the tank. But he was probably doing odd jobs in between the other
Yeah,
jobs,
maybe
you know
that's
what I mean?
maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then
Some
every
kind
now
of
and
odd,
then he
like
was
you
just
don't know what he did. He might have been, working on farms or something, uh, mending fences and
like I said,
barbed wire work.
if this was the same guy, like they talked to when they reopened the case and they had the task force in 2021, they said they had a guy that called in with a tip, and he was the guy that said, remember how I said at the beginning of the show that he said this guy drove up in this Cadillac and was asking for a job.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, well, we need to go fill out an application, but he said he was like real like hyped up.
Yeah.
And that coincidentally was the same day that the woman at the shoe store had been killed. I think that was the first murder in Indianapolis. It was the first one or the second one, I can't remember. But yeah, he said he was acting real weird. I don't know if that was the same dude or not. But he said he got the feeling, he said that there was a woman in the car and the woman handed him a pistol. And the dude thought, oh shit, I'm going to get robbed. Because he said, oh, we have to go to the trailer to get the application because you need to fill out an application if you want. It was a construction site, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he was just kind of like, ah, no. And like the dude just like drove away, you know what I mean? But that's what he said. But he didn't report it at the time because he didn't link the two things together.
Yeah.
But when they reopened the case and were talking about it in the media again, it kind of triggered something in his memory, he said. Like I said, I don't know if that was the same dude or not. That construction site was very near to the crime scene, though.
The thing is, though, is that you can't really tour in a Cadillac of those years. They were gas guzzlers.
Well, yeah.
And I don't picture him with a woman. I picture him being a loner.
Yeah, me too. So that it's possible that it was just a coincidence.
I think it's just a coincidence.
But he just remembered it because the dude was acting kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
And he thought he was going to get robbed.
Right.
But yeah, I never got the sense, and nobody ever saw him.
This is a lone male's crime.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if that was the same guy or not.
Yeah.
Maybe the guy's remembering it wrong. I don't know. It was a long time ago. Like, because he didn't report it until like 2021, and it happened in 1992. So you know what I mean. All right, so that's where we are nowadays. This is still unsolved. Hopefully they can solve it sometime soon. They've been solving a lot of old shit. So
we'll see y'all Friday.
So yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
And we're going to be back on Friday night for the Sidetrack show. We're not going anywhere on Friday night, so we can hang out with you guys for a while and have some drinks and just hang out and chat. So that should be fun. Hopefully you guys can join us for that. Thanks very much for hanging out with us this evening. Thanks for your super chats. Have a good rest of your evening. Have a good day tomorrow. And we will see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.